So I will call this meeting to order, the Economic Development Commission for September 23rd. The first piece of business is an oral report. Sarah could not make the meeting, but she did send me a quick update. And so I'd like to read it to everybody. Okay, the Simsbury Main Street Partnership is still working on COVID-related activities. We are working with the VNA to set up flu shot clinics at our Simsbury businesses and have 6 participating so far. We continue to secure PPE for our businesses where we can. Our outdoor dining committee convened on Tuesday to discuss prolonging the outdoor tents where available, and we should have information on details shortly. This will include the availability of restaurants to add 4 sides onto their tents and the addition of heaters. Our Simsbury Small Business Roundtable with the Lieutenant Governor and State Representative Hampton went very well. Main Street and the Chamber hosted with great feedback. I'm working with Ava Grace to coordinate a sip and shop at the Simsbury Town Shops on Saturday, October 10th from 3 to 6. This is a pop-up market with music from a live band, food and drinks, and small businesses. A portion of the proceeds will go to the Interval House. So these were the highlights of Sarah's activities. Questions or comments? Okay, Morgan, would you like to provide an update on the chamber?
Sure, thank you so much. Just a really quick comment. It was fantastic to do the Small Business Roundtable with Sarah. I think that the businesses that were able to participate in the call got a lot out of it. And we had some really great suggestions for the state rep and lieutenant governor to kind of mull over and bring it up to some other constituents so we can kind of figure out some solutions that our businesses are in desperate need of right now. So in terms of the chamber, we had a very successful Granby and Simsbury golf tournament on September 1st over at Hot Meadow Country Club. We had a great amount of golfers. We had dinner-only guests. Everybody was very COVID conscious and kept distance and, for the most part, masks on as long as they, people that were of the same family or workplace took their masks down. But generally, people were very good about being cautious and vigilant. And the sponsors were thrilled to have had the opportunity to get their logo and their branding and marketing out there to the customers that in a lot of ways they haven't seen for quite some time. So we've really been seeing an increase in new members, which is great, and members renewing their membership and looking to get back out there. I've seen a lot of positivity from members collaborating with one another, a huge amount of creativity. I will say it's been amazing to see what people have come up with in terms of working together, coming up with unique ideas and branding campaigns, so on and so forth, that you normally wouldn't see. People normally, they open their doors and they receive business that way. But in today's day and age, people are really, recreating themselves and finding ways to incorporate other businesses with their marketing plan. We are doing a lot of things virtually, of course. We still have our twice a month Good Morning Simsbury meeting, which is the 2nd and 4th Friday morning. And we've also been hosting some in-person meetings, staying, again, conscious of social distancing. And we have 2 very large events coming up. So first, the art trail closing is coming, very soon. We've extended it a week, so it's going to be ending October 5th. And the closing ceremony will be October 6th from 4 to 6 p.m. over at the Performing Arts Center. So tickets are available for that event on the website, simsburycoc.org. And we'll have beer, wine. It's being catered by Fitzgerald's Foods. And, we do have to limit that event to 100 people. But it's going to be fantastic, and we'll have half a dozen sculptures on site. So a lot of fun for local professionals and art trail fans. And then the second event, we're working with the town and the Performing Arts Center on a Halloween drive-through celebration, spectacular drive-through celebration. So we've just launched registration for this. And basically, it's a complicated event. We're trying to be as COVID-friendly as possible and give families an alternative to traditional trick-or-treating. So we're shutting down Iron Horse Boulevard Sunday, October 18th. and we'll have chamber member booths set up along Iron Horse Boulevard. And we have cars that will have to register ahead of time, Simsbury residents only, and they'll slowly drive the route. They'll receive, a bag of goodies from the vendors, and then at the end of the route, they'll pull into the Performing Arts Center for activities, food trucks, entertainment, and we've got 3 groups that will be experiencing that. So we'll have one group starting at 9, another group at noon, and then the final group at 3. So for more information about that, it's on the Department of Parks and Rec website.
So by doing it that way, you limit the number of people coming through with each group that adheres to state guidelines for large gatherings. I assume that's the approach.
Yes, it's going to be very safe in terms of the drive-through. You get exposure to these businesses, and they finally have contact with the community, but in a safe way. People are staying in their cars. Yep. Everybody will be masked and gloved, so on and so forth. So very limited contact involved, but still fun for the kids. All the booths are going to be dressed up. The cars will hopefully be dressed up. We really want people to go all out and have fun with it. And then at the PAC, they have the socially distanced circles that they've been using for the theater, or not the theater, the drive-in movies. So people can go ahead and park. They can select a socially distant circle and enjoy some time with family. And we all have food trucks and activities and entertainment going on.
That sounds like quite an undertaking.
Yes, and we are expecting, each group is going to have approximately 500 people, which is, the max. So we're going to stay under that number. But over the course of the day, it's going to be, over 1,000 local people that these businesses will be able to reconnect with, which is, really exciting.
Do you need any help from the EDC with that? Just arms and legs or things we can do to help out?
Volunteers. As you mentioned, it's quite the undertaking. So we'll have chamber volunteers, and then if anybody else is available, please just shoot me an email, and would love to get you on the roster to help out for the day. It's going to be a long one. Vendor setup is at 8 a.m., and then the last group leaves the PAC at 6 p.m. So it's going to be a very intense day.
Okay. Sounds great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Andrew?
Hi, everybody. Exciting news for the library. We are reopening October 6th. Very, very excited about that. We are going to be doing Tuesdays and Thursdays with limited hours. So we will be mixing. We are going to continue our curbside service. So it will be mixed in with, so days we're open, you will come in and get your stuff. Days we're not, we'll continue to do the curbside. As far as the Business Resource Center, we did go ahead and launch our rebrand of that. We were kind of hoping that we get to show off the redone space and maybe do a chamber ribbon cutting and stuff, but circumstances are a little beyond our control. So we did launch that virtually. We are now the Business and Career Center. I was really wanted to change the name to reflect both sides of the mission we do in the Business Resource Center. So that is what we will be going for, is the BCC. Continue to send out a lot of emails through my email list on updates that are COVID related, mostly a lot of the making people aware of the government announced state of Connecticut announcements as policies and that change. The biggest feedback I continue to get are for people asking questions about unemployment. It kind of slowed down a little bit when the initial unemployment benefit came up and expired, and then we had kind of a new round of questions with the new reduced unemployment, the lost wages unemployment benefit. But it sounds like the folks that I've talked to, that went a lot smoother this time than the initial benefit did. CT got their application and got approved and very quickly had their website set up to handle it. So that went a lot smoother. But that again continues to be what I get the most inbound questions and stuff about, are what's available as far as for the unemployment benefits right now.
Very good. Any questions or comments? Okay. The next was outreach to stakeholders. I have nothing new to report since our last meeting as far as actual interviews that we've done with anybody. No new updates. Tom, do you have anything?
I don't, no.
Okay. All right.
Bob, were there actually any, looking at the schedule on, I know you had some scheduled for August and September, but were any of those actually done or no? Or
Yeah, Maria and I talked this afternoon a little bit about actual meetings themselves. We are trying to get the ones for the fall, late fall, early, October, November, December, try to get those rescheduled. If we can do that in a manner that's consistent with the COVID guidelines, we're trying to do that. Try to get EDC members who are interested in participating to attend those as well. But we haven't got anything set up officially yet.
So the ones that went by, are we just going to pass on those?
For this year, we'll get them back. Try to get them done next year.
Okay.
The idea or the concept is that these were meetings, these businesses were important enough to the town that we meet with them on an annual basis. So every January for example, every January we would meet with the folks down at the, I don't think it was the pot plant, but that's not proper. But
Do you have a list of questions or something, or do you try and get? I'm meeting with Mitchell. We
have just a general outline of how's your business going, how is it interacting with the town, do you like working with the town? Is this things we could be doing better, things that you need help with? What are your growth plans? What do you expect to be doing over the next 12 to 18 months that we need to be aware of, things we can do to help? Those are the general questions. Our intent really is to just start to develop a relationship with these people that as things do come up, they feel like they got a friendly voice there in town hall that they can pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I need help with such and such, or, what have you. So it's kind of a, meet and greet and get to know each other and get to know their businesses and get to know their plans. And in general, their reaction in doing business with the town and what can we do better and what can we do to help.
Okay. I was going to say, unless there's an objection to it, I could ask a few of those to Mark next time I see him.
Yeah.
Like I said, I meet with him fairly regularly to switch hats, but I don't know if that's a problem. I don't want to create a problem.
Yeah, not necessarily. I can just add a little bit. Sorry, I think we're just a little out of order, not to confuse. Sorry, the outreach to stakeholders was actually the work that Tom and Bob had been doing as part of the long-term recovery committee efforts with reaching out to nonprofits and social service entities and some of our religious and educational institutions. And the business outreach, sorry, again, I think we're just a little out of order on the agenda. Was under the work plan update. So I do have a bit of an update just to add on to what Bob was sharing about the business outreach, if it's okay to kind of continue on that. Bob, I know we're a little out of order, but Tom from my office has reached out to the major employers that we had planned to do visits with during 2020. We had met with a couple of them earlier in the year. And then because of the pandemic, we had to cancel and reschedule. So what we've done, unfortunately, we had hoped, we'd be able to do everything in person, as it looked like that may or may not be possible. What we've reached out to the major employers and have said is that, hey, if you're willing to host us in person, we would love to come and see you in person. If not, we'd at least, really like the opportunity to meet virtually with you. Several of them have gotten back to him, so we are in the process of trying to schedule those dates. So as we firm up those dates, we'll make sure to send them along to folks who are interested in coming along. Again, whether it'll be virtually or in person, we're sort of leaving up to the business. And then in terms of the questions, Ron, and I'll make sure we send them along to you. So we do have a standard set of questions as Bob talked about. And as we're setting up the meetings with the employers, what we've done is forwarded those those questions to them in advance, just so they have a little bit of time to kind of think about, give some thought to those questions, and that way they have time to be prepared, for our visit, just so we can make the best use of our time. So we are looking forward to getting those dates firmed up, so that's some good news. Some good news there.
Okay. Yeah. So instead of pushing Mitchell off for another year, if I can just kind of touch base with him a little bit.
Yeah. And again, we're really doing our best to try and find quite a few dates in October and November, so we can still try to get everybody in this year to the extent possible.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Next item on the agenda was the 2019-2020 EDC Annual Report. I'm due to present that on October 14th to the Board of Selectmen. You all are welcome to join that meeting. And I put together a draft presentation that's part of your packet. It's very similar to what was done last year. I basically took all the same slides and just updated, many of them, added where we have new things to cover. I reached out to many of you asking for your comments and feedback, and I've gotten pretty good response from everyone. I don't really think I need to go through every slide, but let me just very quickly ask if you've had a chance to look through this. Do you have any questions or comments or changes that we need to make? Just a quick overview. I have a first slide is kind of our mission and the team members. The second one is just a review with the board, what the role of our role of the EDC is relative to all of the other organizations in town that are involved with economic development. My mantra continues to be that we really don't do economic development, but we work with a number of different organizations in town that are all involved in economic development. And what we're really trying to do is to help support everybody else so that we're all on the same page, we're all rowing in the same direction. And at the end of the day, all the different organizations come together in a more effective and efficient way to help drive economic development across the town. The next couple of slides kind of talked about the different projects we've been working on. We were initially slated with 4: the business incentives, the marketing, the business recruitment, retention and outreach, and strategic vision. We made tremendous progress on 3 of those 4. The marketing one got held back a little bit because of the COVID situation where we lost the funding for last year, but now we got it back, so that's back on track. But then we've added to that, we've done some additional marketing programs, or we were asked to participate in the Simsbury 350. We are looking to do work around the co-working space, and we've got a nice slide in here on that and where we are with that. And with the business outreach, we've assisted in the business recovery plan. So just a quick update on all those, everybody. Let's see. So on the strategic vision one, we're pretty much done with that. Then we were asked to go back through and look at various studies, come back with recommendations from those studies and what we could do, and we pretty much implemented all of the recommendations. The majority of those were around the new zoning and land use regulations that Mike, you talked about at the last meeting, that have all been implemented. So from my perspective, I think we've met the goal of this particular focus. On the business recruitment, retention, and outreach, we do have a process in place that we started executing on this year. Maria touched on it just a second ago. Obviously, because of the COVID, we had to delay a lot of the meetings, but we have a process that's in place, and we'll continue to work on that. We did, through the long-term recovery plan, complement the work that was being done by the Main Street Partnership and the Chamber and insurance organization there at the library by reaching out to the nonprofits, the churches, the local, number of the schools in town. We got input from them on how they're doing. And so the idea here is that this is a great example, I think, of how we complement each other and we help support the Main Street Partnership, the Chamber, and others. They've done a terrific job in supporting our businesses and keeping the businesses afloat. We came in and we kind of filled the gap of other institutions in town to check on them and see how they're doing. And so we got excellent feedback from them on that. There's a slide then on some of the feedback from those interviews. And then on the support entrepreneurs, we've got a program in place that we want to execute on. We weren't able to do that last year because of Sarah's time and attention being devoted to support the businesses through the COVID crisis. And we had to get our funding restored for this year. So the marketing brochure work will go forward, but we do have a long-term plan in place to expand that work to include not just creating a new brochure, but hopefully a new marketing material that can be used across multiple platforms, like our town website, for our tourism organization, for local realtors and what have you. And so that we have a consistent message and a consistent communication to everyone about the town and the value of doing business with Simsbury. And then there's one more slide here on the co-working space, the work, Ron, that you and Peter have been doing with SHRM and with help from Morgan. There's a lot of work that you've done about defining about what it means and what we would like to do. I think when Peter last met with Morgan, had an excellent conversation about let's not worry about trying to get the process right and trying to figure out how to do this thing exactly. Let's go out, let's find a property manager who's interested in doing this, and let's just get going. And because I think there's a lot of interest in this space. So let's jump while the irons are hot, so to speak. And we can learn a lot through the process. So that's the intent there. So we'll talk about that. And then the last thing is the suggestion from Jackie on a new work stream to assign EDC members to large development projects currently underway. We've defined the parameters for how we want to do that. Now all we need to do is sit down and line up the development efforts and assign it to an EDC member, and we'll kick that off here hopefully pretty soon. So at that point, I'm going to stop and ask for, what else does the board want us to work on? Questions, comments, what have you. So that's a brief overview of the presentation. Any questions, comments? Is there anything here that you read through and say, Bob, you made a mistake here, or you need to say this, or you got a spelling error here, or, anything? Questions, comments before we finalize this thing?
Good job, but don't ask me about spelling.
Okay.
It looks good.
All right. So thank you all for taking the time to review it. Marie, I'll get the final draft sent to you tomorrow or Friday, and we'll be good to go. Okay, very good. Okay, so the work plan updates, marketing, both Charmaine and Brooke are unable to attend. The one big update that we do have is that the funding that we lost last year has been reinstituted for this year. So we're good to go there. I know Brooke is reached out to Charmaine and to Sarah to try to set up a time for the three of them to get together to review the proposal for the new marketing brochures. And hopefully they'll meet sometime in the next couple of weeks.
Hey, Bob.
Yes.
I just have a question. I'm actually going to probably direct it to Maria. I thought, please correct me, one of our last meetings before COVID really hit, I thought we did have the funding and that Main Street said this is a great time for us to work on this. So I thought that, I didn't understand that the funding was ever lost or missed. Is that
Sure.
right?
Sure. So I think we had our revised proposal from the marketing firm sometime in the April timeframe. But then with the pandemic, again, folks just weren't able to sort of get together, meet, finalize that. So the funds rolled forward into the new fiscal year. So we just wanted to make sure that the funds were going to roll forward into the new fiscal year, which we were able to do. So the funds are still available, which is great. And we'll execute a contract with the marketing firm once Charmaine, Brooke, and Sarah are able to agree on sort of the scope, and then they should be able to roll. So they're trying to set up a meeting, I believe, for September 30th, somewhere in that time frame.
Okay, so the money was never not there, though. I think that was said a couple of different meetings that we were waiting on the money. It was
no, we had the money. It's just that once we kind of hit the end of the fiscal year, we just wanted to make sure that it was officially going to roll over, which it did with all the year-end transfers and rollovers. So once the Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance had those two meetings in mid-September, we were good to go. So the money is definitely there. It definitely rolled forward, but we just wanted to make sure that the money was rolling forward after the close of the fiscal year, but it's definitely there.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Thanks, Bob.
You're welcome. Okay, so on co-working spaces, I did get a note from Peter, a one-pager of the work that Ron, you and Peter have been involved with. The new update is Peter did meet with Morgan on this. And if I could read the takeaway. In the interest of simplicity and getting underway, EDC will work with the Chamber of Commerce, the Simsbury Main Street Partnership Program, and the Library Business Resource Center to identify landlords eager to rent or even donate space for co-working, with coordination to be done between the individual worker and the landlord. The rationale is there are people now eager to take advantage of co-working. Any detailed planning will not only take time, but will not be informed by incremental and immediate progress. I think to kind of net this out is, hey, let's not get bogged down in trying to engineer or design the perfect solution here for co-working. Let's just get started, and let's find some tenants or property managers are eager to get going. Let's just get going. Let's get this thing off the ground, get something started here, and then we can learn as we go. And it's through. I think that's a great way to go. There's a lot of interest in this. We think it's given the current situation that people will be working more from home and we'll be looking for some office space to rent out, if you will. That there's lots of opportunities here in town to do that. And so let's just get going and we can learn as we go. So I'm going to stop. Ron, any comments? Morgan, any comments?
Nope.
I have a comment, Bob.
Go ahead.
I have a question. So I see the background and definitions. Is the thought that there's going to be a website, or is there any thought to that already? The signing up, the actual working on the co-working spaces?
Sure. I know we had kind of explored, because you have some kind of sign up stuff. I don't know if we could feedback on that or not, or.
I'm sorry, sign up stuff for what?
For the spaces that you have in the library, did you have some kind of web presence to make those available?
For our meeting rooms, we have our event calendar system that we use to reserve the rooms for meetings and stuff. Our small spaces in the BCC were available on a first come, first served basis. People are allowed, the one conference room we have, the small one we have in the BCC can be scheduled ahead of time. My old office, we are in the process of converting that to another small conference room. Unfortunately, at this time, none of our meeting rooms are available for use at all. I guess that's really kind of on hold for us. Are you talking about if we had another space outside the library? Do we have the software we could use to manage it?
Correct.
Yep.
It would depend. Like I said, our Insight software is really set around scheduling use of meeting rooms and meeting spaces. So I don't know if we could make it work for that or not.
So,
Whether would be create something new, or you would go with whatever the developer would be their space. They might provide that. I don't know if we want to create another third portal. Just thought.
So the discussion that Peter and I had, we were kind of talking about that if we wanted a centralized organization to kind of manage whether it was going to be a membership-based program or, pay by the hour, how all of that was going to happen. And the conversation started to get very complicated because we didn't have the feedback we needed from the property owners. And then I also had several chamber members that had space available within their businesses. So an example is Marriott Residence Inn. They normally have, a packed breakfast area, and they serve complimentary continental breakfast to their, to their guests, but they're unable to use that space. So when I had met over there with Cheryl, I had suggested perhaps they could open up a couple spots within this common area to co-working people, and they loved that idea because it would just bring additional eyes to their place and, have potential for business down the road. So there's several businesses in that position where they have common space available. And so when Peter and I were discussing these options, we thought the chamber could certainly have a page available on our website where we basically list all of the options. And if a local professional was interested in doing co-working for a specific time frame, they could reach out to one of these people listed and have that direct contact with that business or office location. Just as a way to start launching the program, seeing, getting some traction, and then we would have the ability to develop a more centralized, platform around it as time went on. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, I think if you have the property owner maintain that, you're a lot better off than trying to have someone outside that doesn't have any, that has to constantly coordinate with the property owner. But that's a good idea. Direct them there and say, hey, there's a space here. Check with the property owner. The property owner can say, yeah, I'm booked Tuesday, but Wednesday's open or something like that.
Exactly. At least just to get this program started, we would just be assisting with the visibility aspect and marketing it and helping not only the businesses that have available space, but the property owners that have available offices. Just getting the word out there and, getting them in touch with the people interested.
Our other challenge there is we don't really know at this point how risk averse people are going to be going into even a shared space at this point.
Good point. And library.
Yeah.
Morgan, would you be able to list other businesses? I know you said you would do a list of chamber businesses on your page, but would you be able to list other spaces even if they're not a chamber?
Sure. I don't see why not. Obviously, the chamber is focused on supporting member businesses first and foremost, but we really want to be collaborating with more organizations, having other partnerships in the area, and I think those can take all sorts of forms. So for this use, I think it's perfectly appropriate for us to have, a complete resource page with everyone that's available for this type of co-working setup.
Right. And Andrew, for the feedback I've got so far is that people really need the space and don't seem to be concerned, or there don't seem to be too many worries as much as they need to find a space to work potentially outside their home.
Well, that's good.
That's been what I've been hearing as well. Yeah.
I know we have, for example, when I was in Colorado, both my daughters and I were all working remotely from her house. And when you got more than one person remote in the house, that can definitely be a challenge.
Yes. And I've been receiving several calls in the past few months looking for co-working opportunities in more of a setup way, a structured way. And I've been having to refer them to places in West Hartford. So if we had something available here to keep those professionals in the area, then I think it would really serve us, greatly.
So are we waiting for, so from a next step perspective, are we going to reach out to local property managers and gauge their interests? Or have we already done that? Or kind of what do you see as the next steps?
That's exactly the next steps that I see. I need to do sort of an article and reach out to our membership to see what member businesses have spots available, and if so, how many. And then we need to reach out to the property owners as well. I think Sarah has, and Sherm, I'm sure you do as well, fantastic connections with local property owners. With me still being relatively new, I have limited connections in that area. So the couple of people that I know will have interest, I will be reaching out to, and then I'll be relying on, other members of our team to continue that.
Okay. Very good. Any other questions, comments? I don't know, Jackie, if you got connections in town where you could help with that as well, or?
Yes, I think probably Morgan or, spearheading getting a database is going to be probably the next step, however that is. And Morgan and Main Street and Sherm can figure out.
We lose you?
You muted yourself, Jackie.
Okay.
Sorry. I was just saying Morgan and hopefully Main Street and Andrew can work together on a database so that all the businesses are listed somewhere, some common space. I think that'd be great. And then people can see what size is being offered, that kind of thing, what location.
Yep,
Okay.
absolutely.
Very good. Okay. Any other comments on questions on co-working? All right, we talked about the business outreach, updates on that. I think we're in good shape there.
Bob,
Tom?
sorry, Bob, just quickly, there was just one other item that you and I had talked about that I wanted to throw out to the group. So sometime back, I know we had talked about that once we had experimented sort of with our script of questions with our larger employers, that if we seem to be getting really good feedback from those visits based on those questions, that we'd like to essentially send some teams of 2, so some EDC members who would be able to go out and visit with some of our smaller and medium-sized businesses in town and get that same feedback from them. And so I think that that's something, again, that Bob and I had talked about that we'd really like to move forward with. And it's also something that our graduate student intern could assist in helping to coordinate, or if the EDC members found it was easier to do that directly themselves to work with their schedules. But again, that my office was happy to assist with that. So I think, Bob, what we had talked about was that if there were any EDC members who are interested in helping out to do some outreach visits to our small and medium-sized businesses, to let us know. And then we can just kind of get the mechanics in place and let the EDC members really run with that.
Yes. So there's a... last year we did those roundtables where we reached out to a number of those, businesses in town. We have that list that I actually got from Lisa Gray from the chamber that I was working from primarily to, identify small, medium businesses. I can go back through that and start to pull a list together and then maybe at our next meeting, have something that I could present to the group and see if there's folks who have relationships with these companies and maybe reach out to them, or just be assigned to have them reach out on their own to engage and gauge their level of interest, how they're doing, and what have you. So I can take the action item on that to start to pull that together. Okay, Tom, a quick update on the business incentive policy.
Yeah, prior to the last meeting, we sent out the, can you hear me all right?
Yep, I can hear you.
Prior to the last meeting, we sent out the latest iteration of the tax abatement policy. And I think someone at that meeting, I missed the August meeting, but I think maybe it was Melissa or Maria said there were some needed one more meeting to go over some final details, maybe one more iteration. But I think I don't have any more input into it. I think maybe we need input from other people, or
So we just waited to get a meeting scheduled, Tom, just to have that final review. Maria, do you have any? Can we get something on the calendar?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think just that final review, and then we should be able to present to the board this fall.
Yeah, there were a couple of typos in the last one, which I found and corrected. I don't know whether Melissa's looked at it or Maria's looked at it, but I think one more meeting would be useful.
Yeah, I think the last version that we provided back in August, I think that had a lot of the feedback that we had talked about the last time we got together, which was, earlier this year at this point. But there were just a couple questions that were kind of more policy related that I think we just needed to regroup on and just make sure we discuss those before finalizing. But otherwise, I think the last version was pretty close to having all the feedback and edits incorporated into it.
And just so I understand, just more from my knowledge than anything else, once we're comfortable with the policy itself, then is the next step then to present to the Board of Selectmen to get their approval? Do we have to go in front of the Board of Finance? How does that work?
It'll be Board of Selectmen.
Okay, and then they look at it, vote on it, or, study it?
Exactly.
Okay. So is it reasonable to think that by the first of the year we'll have a new policy, or might it take longer than that?
No, I think that's really reasonable. If you present in the fall, depending on how much, discussion the board wants to have on it, I would think sometime between the fall and end of the calendar year. I don't think that's unreasonable at all.
Okay. All right. Very good. Thank you. Okay. The next item was the Recovery Friendly Community Initiative. Maria, you want to talk about that?
Sure. It was just a quick reminder to EDC members. You may recall we did circulate an email from Lisa Gray at A Promise to Jordan about the task force that she was putting together that would help to encourage local employers to hire people in recovery. So she was reaching out to see perhaps if there were any EDC members that may be interested in helping with that initiative. So again, I just wanted to remind folks about that opportunity and that if you are interested, I'm very happy to help connect you with her. So just let us know.
So if anybody does have an interest, just shoot you an email?
Correct. Yep.
Okay. Very good. Okay. Next item is the update on the assigning EDC members to development projects. We talked about this a little bit earlier, but at our last meeting, we discussed the parameters that we wanted to put in place around having an EDC member assigned to a development project from its inception, if you will, all the way through to implementation, and then establishing a relationship with that business as they, build out their business and grow over the years. So, the idea that take a long-term view with a new business in town or, one who's doing an upgrade to their existing business, but kind of not shepherd it through, but be aware of what's involved. Getting involved with the history from the beginning to the end and start to maintain that relationship for the years to come. So I think we're fine with the parameters, right, Mike, that we outlined. I think the next step was just to pull together that list of development projects in the works and then assign an EDC member to sit in on the meetings around those development projects for zoning, planning, design review board, what have you. So is that, Mike, is that a list that you can start to pull together?
So, I could list a few things, but the problem is that a lot of the projects that I'm working on right now are not for public consumption.
Okay.
It really is going to trigger once the applications are filed. I anticipate at least 2 land use applications will be filed with the zoning commission by Friday of this week, of which one I think would be of interest. to a member of the EDC to follow.
Okay.
Um,
So should we do this literally by project by project?
yeah,
So as they
Go ahead,
come
Bob.
up, so as they come up, you make us aware, and you offer it to the committee. And if someone said, "Hey, that's something I'd really like to be involved with," and just assign it that way, as opposed to creating a list of 10 or whatever, because I'm only going to get that. That doesn't
Yeah.
sound like that's the right way to go.
Yeah, I would go by the alternative method of as they pop up that, here's the opportunity to a member. Because I would say, by Friday, I could email the group and say, this application has been filed and will be heard at the October meeting for the zoning commission if someone is interested. And this is kind of a large application. One of them is a considerable large application.
Okay. All right. So we'll just look to you to bring those to our attention as they come up. And then we'll just look for the EDC member to raise their hand and say, yeah, I'd like to be involved with that.
Bob, I'd raise my hand.
Okay. So Tom,
Yeah, it sounds very interesting. Yeah.
I'll send you the details then when it comes in by Friday.
Sure. Fine. Thanks.
Okay.
Yeah, I just have a really.
Yeah, I have a question.
I just have a really.
Morgan.
Go ahead. Sorry, I just have a really brief comment. I think that this is the first I'm hearing of this type of program. And, I did miss a couple meetings because we had some conflicts over at the chamber. I think this is an absolutely fantastic idea. And I think it's going to be really a great program to have in town. So well done on whoever thought of that.
Kudos to Jackie.
Hey, Mike,
It's her idea.
just a question. Are those conversations you're having confidential until their application is made? Is that so there's a legal requirement? Okay.
That's exactly why. Yeah, because the other thing too is those confidential conversations, obviously, unless an application is filed, it can go nowhere.
Right.
So I don't want to waste people's time and say, oh, I got this great application on Hot Meadow Street that never sees the light of day, but it's really fantastic.
I'm sure you have dozens of those.
So, Bob, in the parameters, I don't know if this would be in there, but from time to time, an application that is submitted is not something that townspeople are really in favor of. And I think the EDC is going to be very careful in the impression that this might bring, where a town committee it could be interpreted as advocating for an applicant when the townspeople are not looking for that advocacy.
And I think that's a key comment and a very important one. I think as we were discussing at our last meeting, all we really want the EDC member to do at this particular point is sit in on the meetings, hear the conversation, understand what's going on so that he's aware. And he's, if you think long-term and starting to build a longer-term relationship, they would be involved with the history and know the history of what happened at these zoning meetings, the issues that the person had to work through, so that they can carry that information and knowledge forward. Totally agree. We don't want to be viewed as advocating for anything. I think it's just sitting in on the meetings and being aware.
I think this came up before because I'm pretty much at most zoning meetings anyways, and I think you guys said just sit there, don't introduce yourself, don't so it's unless someone introduces themselves to me, I just kind of sit there and come and you guys report back to you guys if I hear anything. You'll know if there's some people in the town that aren't happy with it, but it's generally the ones that I've seen are just a couple people that may be impacted by it most, and it's not a town-wide thing yet.
Yep. Okay. Commissioners, are always cautioned to maintain impartiality. Now, maybe the EDC members are a little bit different. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think at some point you have to, I don't know how you approach that. They got their application in, you're observing, they got approvals, maybe they're going to start construction or building or doing whatever they're going to do. At some point, maybe we can approach them, but I don't know what point we would be allowed to do that. I know obviously doing it, the outreaches to people that are already in town and members of the community. So at some point they're moving from being an applicant and wanting to be part of the town to actually being there. So I don't know when that bridge is crossed.
But I guess, I see kind of a break point. If an application is approved, then I don't see any conflicts or anything that would be an issue. But prior to the application being approved, you have to be careful not to influence the process.
I'd almost say I'd really prefer that once construction's completed, because you got to remember, once we leave the commission role, we're into the construction role where we still have regulatory actions that we have to fulfill, or obligations, I should say. Whether it's the zoning officer, the building official, we're still dealing with a lot of code, and there's a lot of moving parts associated with the construction. So I would say more once you're at the end, you're coming up on certificate of occupancy, that would be an appropriate time.
I agree with that.
Just because I don't want, one of the things I said last month was just that perception that, there's a fine line between the regulatory side versus, the other, that I don't want you to be advocating or contradicting some of our efforts.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Bill, did we answer your question?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah,
okay,
good.
All right. So Mike, we'll take your lead on that. And as opportunities arise, you feel are appropriate, you'll send an email out to our commission, and we'll wait for someone to raise their hand and say, yeah, that's something I'd like to participate in. Yeah. Well, so I guess, Tom Earl, you're going to be my first that's getting an email.
I'm ready.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Thank you.
Yep. You're welcome.
Okay. The last item here, we talked about, since we don't have a full quorum here, we can't vote on the minutes, so we'll wait for our next meeting to do that. Does anybody else have anything they want to bring to the commission's attention or to discuss?
I just had a question. I saw an advertisement for a new commissioner. Who was that?
I'm sorry?
I saw an advertisement go out.
Oh, so yeah, we still have Bill Freeman's position. We have not filled yet.
Okay, that's still the track though.
And are we still limited, Maria, to a particular party this time? Is there a Republican we need to have, or?
Yeah, so actually, because somebody would have been filling out the remainder of Bill's term, but his term was actually set to expire just coming up, I think it was around October 10th. So now it is open to anybody. So the person can be unaffiliated, a Republican, a Democrat, they can have another, party affiliation. It's truly just open to anyone. He was fulfilling under the policy resolution, a member with business experience. As you recall, he was a business owner for 30 plus years. So we are looking for a business owner, and preferably a Simsbury business owner, to fill that slot.
Okay. And Tom and Charmaine have agreed to re-up for another term. And so thank you both for that. We appreciate it. I'm delighted that you are staying on the board. That's good news for us. Anything else? Okay, so can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion so made.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Tom, a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Yes, aye. Great.
Aye.